Hi everyone, welcome to the shop. Going to do a quick voiceover at 4 times speed here of preparing a brand new chisel. So this is the full sharpening from a brand new chisel. The starting point here is to flatten the back. This is a 250 grit diamond plate with a little Windex. So I'm shining a light here to try to show you the angle. The next time I flip it over, I think we'll see that this chisel's not that bad. It has a little hollow in the middle. A hollow in the middle is fine. And in that little bit of scratch in there, I did get it to touch all edges of the tip and the sides. So this chisel is going to flatten out fairly easily. If you had a bump in the middle, that's a much bigger problem to deal with. This is a Workzone Aldi chisel. I bought the set of 4. Paul Sellers, as we all know on YouTube here, has been talking these things up for a couple of years. Sadly, this is the set that has the plastic resin handles that I believe, instead of wood, that I believe Paul is saying are not as good. I haven't gone back to find out what he doesn't like about them. I spent the $6. I'm not going to bother going back for $6. I'm going to see what they can do. And honestly, this one is flattening out fine. Flattening the back and the initial establishment of the bevel are the two hardest things, and that's what happens on your most coarse stone, or for the bevel part anyway, on machinery. Or actually, I guess there are machines that do flat backs too. That Worksharp 3000 has the glass plates with the sandpaper that spins. I bet that would flatten a back. Anyway, I'm doing the 250 grit here, and it's the biggest part of the process. This entire chisel from start to finish took 34 minutes. I just switched to the 600 grit, which is the middle grit in the set of stones I'm using. I am using the 250, 600, and 1200 easy laps that Paul recommended when he did these Aldi chisels. I don't use his sharpening process though, where he does the concave tip. I do, you'll see here soon, use a honing guide to establish the bevel. I generally don't use a honing guide when I'm just doing touch-up sharpening, but to establish the bevel, I do. Sometimes I will, if I buy older chisels, I'll actually take them to a grinder, which would make a hollow grind, because they're all bashed up. But this is a new chisel, and it had a 25-degree edge. Now I'm going to the 8,000 grit stone. This is a water stone, and I used a 300 grit diamond stone to flatten it there. That's what that big plate was that I used. And you can see it's flat when you actually pick the diamond plate up and the stone comes up with it. I'm going to do another 50 strokes with the diamond stone, or excuse me, on the water stone here. And that covers that. Now I'm going to quickly clean up my mess. The water stones and the Windex make a mess. I'm going to give it a little buff on the back with the leather strap and some green buffing compound. And believe it or not, flattening that back to that level makes this chisel fairly sharp. I haven't touched the bevel at all, and I could probably do some rough carpentry with it right now. It's definitely way sharper than when it shipped. It was blunt dull when I took it out of the package. Now here I am putting it in the honing guide. This honing guide and me fight all the time, but once you get it in there, it holds it nice and tight and works. And it's amazingly, it lines up on the right degree fairly easily. So it's good for establishing the bevel. So I've got it in there. I did check it with a square. It is nicely aligned. And now I got to go through the process of establishing a true bevel, which starts at the heel, works all the way to the tip, and you'll see here that I start emphasizing one finger on one side over the other, as I had been applying too much pressure on one side to the other, so I had a grind coming from the top of the bevel to the bottom that was on an angle. So by the time I got down to the tip, I had corrected that, so as I got to the tip, it was pretty close to all the way across. I'm just trying to show you that process right there where I had the angle going. almost done with the 250 stone. At the end, I did decide there were a couple of scratches that were just manufacturer errors that I left. They were just too hard to get out. I'm doing a little bit more on the left side there. If you get out of whack and you see you're doing one side more than the other, just take one finger instead of two and just put a little more pressure on the other side, and it'll catch up, and you'll see your line moves back more to level. The honing guide will hold things nice and straight for you, so you can apply the pressure to one side or the other to get things back to flat. Honestly, that's the process used to put a little bit of a crown on the corners of a plane chisel, plane blade. I wish I could actually move this fast when I'm actually doing this. Like I said, this took 34 minutes to accomplish the whole thing start to finish, which, you know, there's a set of 4 there, so that's 140 minutes I spent getting this set of chisels done. Actually, I'm only done with the 1 inch and the 1/4 inch. I have the 1/2 inch and 3/4 still to do. So, but if they all take about the same amount of time, it will be 140, a little over 2 hours of my time. And that is one of what I would consider the 3 differences in quality chisels and cheap chisels. 1 being the time it takes you to get them set up, 2 being the quality of the handle and the steel. The quality of the steel being 3, the quality of handle being 2, and number 3, quality of steel is the biggest thing, because a Lee Nielsen chisel will stay sharp much longer than this Aldi chisel. All right, I went through the 600. Now I'm on the 1200. The 1200 and the 600, I just gave, I believe, 2 sets of 50 each. Once you get the bevel established with the 250 grit, it's just like the back. It's much easier to remove the scratches from the previous stone. We're going to also use the 8000 grit. And I don't know if you noticed here, but I was wiping things down. I try to get all of the goop and slurry off of the wheel on the guide before I change stone, so I don't cross-contaminate and get a different grit. Now just hand holding, I'm rocking up about 2 degrees and putting a secondary bezel. So you start right, you rock off of your bevel you established about 2 degrees and put a secondary bevel in. I'm just putting a piece of scrap. This is some of that half flaps I've been working on here. You can see this thing, I'm just doing a little round nose on the front here. It took the big chunks easy. Now I'm just taking some fine smoothings, and those cuts are burnished nicely. It's cutting very nice. Thanks for watching, everyone.